Episode 55, How to Create a Successful Side Hustle with Matt Miller. Welcome back, everyone. I am your host, Chase Chewning, and this is your weekly source for inspiring content from people who are putting a purpose to their passion and truly living a life ever forward. This is Ever Forward Radio. Hey, welcome back, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me for another incredible episode. I love just getting back onto my computer to record these, to edit these, to mix these every single week, especially now that we're going to twice a week. It fills me up. It fills me up with so much joy. I can't describe to you guys how much of an honor really this is, how much enjoyment just connecting with these like-minded people to better myself, to better educate myself and my practice, and just become more informed, better informed in just all things health, fitness, nutrition, mindset, entrepreneurship, self-help, all the above, you name it. We're talking to people who are just doing it. Today's guest is going to be very special because I know if you're an audience member on this platform, you're all about that side hustle, whether you have one, you want one, or you're just maybe getting some awareness around it and how this can bring value into your life. Now, a lot of us are really happy with what we do as our 9 to 5, as our main job. But you know what? There's nothing wrong with wanting to have a little side hustle to bring in some extra pocket change, to feed maybe a side passion, or just grow an interest to see if there's something else out there that you want to pursue as a hobby, as a job, as a profession. And today's guest, Mr. Matt Miller, is going to talk to us all about that. Now, Matt is a fellow veteran like myself. He was in the Air Force. He was actually an Air Force pilot for about 9 years. And after that, he separated into the civilian sector and quickly realized that becoming your own boss is the shit. And I can certainly say that it is very rewarding, but it does come with a lot of responsibility that a lot of us underestimate. But it is so fulfilling at the same time. So Matt is going to talk to us how separating out of the military, those principles and values and leadership skills that he learned there, how that directly correlated into the civilian sector, but more importantly, how any of us, whether or not we have any military experience, can operate our own business, can start that side hustle. He particularly is going to be talking about the vending and franchising world. That's his niche. Maybe one day I'll get that word right, but he's going to be talking to you about just how he got his start, how you can design your business system that will support your life, and not necessarily a life that supports your business, which is very, very important. So pay attention to that. All about small business startups, developing teams, even getting such things as fundraising, school fundraising, to drive traffic to your business, okay? So today is all about the side hustle. It's all about pursuing something outside of your 9 to 5 or just your day-to-day norm that is going to feed an interest and hopefully make you more money and provide that extra stream of revenue so that you can pursue other interests in your life, so that you can better provide for you and your family, all right? But before we get into the interview, let's head over to the iTunes review of the week. So like I always say, if you guys find any value, if you enjoy these podcasts at all, one of the best ways that you can kind of share the love and help me out is to head on over particularly to iTunes on your computer or on the app and just tap those little 5 stars. If you go to the podcast in your podcast app, scroll down, you can tap 5 stars. There's 1 through 5 little blank stars. Tap the 5th one. It'll light up all orange, I believe it is, or maybe it's purple in the app, I'm not sure. But then basically it's going to lag for about a second, and then it's going to shoot it up into the interwebs, the space, and it's just going to let me know that you guys appreciate this, that you find value, that you like what you're hearing. And what this does is that this helps Ever Forward Radio have more availability and visibility on the iTunes charts, as well as just connect the dots. So if one person's listening to something similar, this is going to come up as, hey, you might also like this guy, okay? So this review is titled Great Messages Every Time, and this is coming from user XML1964 SoupTDD. That is one hell of a username, my friend, but you know what? I'm not here to judge your username. Thank you for leaving me a review. So XML writes, I've only just recently started following the podcast, and I love the messages of positivity that permeate every episode I've listened to thus far. You bring on amazing guests that offer great insights, and they've led me to make some important reflections on my own life. Your story about the origins of Ever Forward with your father really resonated with me, as I have a similar phrase from my father that I do my best to live out every day. I wish you all the best going forward. Well, XML, my man, my girl, my friend, thank you so much for sharing that message. Thank you so much for taking that time out of your day to reflect upon what you're hearing. That's what it's all about, you know. Knowing without doing is simply the same thing as not knowing. So it's one thing to hear these items. It's one thing to hear these stories and be inspired. But then if that doesn't motivate you to take action, then I would encourage you, I would challenge you to go back to that. Go back to that message and really ask yourself, what is this showing me? What is this trying to teach me? And then that thing that comes to mind, act on it, okay? Just take action and see the path that unveils before you. So I'm going to take a quick swig here. And just finished my last drop of this incredible mushroom coffee. Now, you guys have seen me and heard me talk about Four Sigmatic. They are one of my favorite new products I've introduced into my life. Well, I shouldn't say new. I've had them over the years, but nothing on a regular basis. Four Sigmatic is one of our incredible sponsors on the podcast, and they make these elixirs, these coffees, these teas, these just incredible magical concoctions that will either get you really dialed in the morning. Their mushroom coffee mix is one of my favorite morning rituals. It's really light on the stomach. It doesn't give me any acid reflux. It actually even has a little bit lower caffeine count, so you don't get kind of like that traditional coffee caffeine high and then fall. And so there's no real big caffeine crash, basically. But these other ingredients, these ingredients sourced from these incredible mushrooms, nature's like original superfood, just so chock full of antioxidants, and especially in the coffee, it's just immune boosting and cognitive enhancing functions that just really get you dialed in and ready to take on the day. So my little morning ritual, wake up, chug my water, and then settle into my morning, maybe a little journaling, a little reading, a little stretching, and then I get my mushroom coffee ready to go. It's just one of my favorite things, and I'm really happy to have Four Sigmatic. And I'm really happy to have Four Sigmatic on as an incredible sponsor, because this means they're going to hook it up for you, okay? So if any of this sounds appealing, if you're a coffee person, if you enjoy just being really alert and focused on what you want to do and what you need to do in your day, then, guys, I can't recommend Four Sigmatic enough, okay? All you need to do is head on over to foursigmatic.com/everforward, and that's foursigmatic.com/everforward. They're going to hook it up with 15% off each and every purchase, okay? So like I said, the mushroom coffee is my go-to in the morning. In the evening, my kind of wind down routine, about an hour, maybe 2 hours before bedtime, I'll mix up their reishi. Now, this stuff is just so relaxing. You are chill AF, all right? If you're trying to Netflix and chill, this is going to take that chill part to the next level. So what you want to do is just mix this up about an hour or so, like I said, before bedtime. This reishi mushroom is just so calming and so de-stressing. Man, I just slip into sleep so easily with this stuff. So from start of your day to end of your day, Four Sigmatic has got you covered. Okay, so introduction is done, review is done, sharing this incredible offer from Four Sigmatic is done. The only thing that's left is to dive into the interview. So sit back, relax. Maybe if you're driving right now, go ahead and put on that cruise control, or if you're on the treadmill, step it up a little bit, because you're going to want to pay attention to this. Let's get the blood flowing. All right, so let's enjoy this conversation with Mr. Matt Miller, all about creating secondary income streams into your life. Hey, everybody, welcome back to another episode here on the EF Airwaves. I'm joined with another veteran, another entrepreneur, whoever is aligning us here in the universe, in the podcast universe, with just great entrepreneurs and veterans. It's always an easier conversation with my friends here. So today I'm joined with Mr. Matt Miller, and Matt's going to be telling us all about going from the military to the corporate world, and corporate world to the entrepreneur world, which, like I was telling you, Matt, is a huge core of my audience. These people looking for that side hustle life. So introduce yourself, my friend.
So Chase, you think you can hang for a little while with an Air Force guy?
I won't hold it against you too long. I actually spent quite a bit of my time at Lackland Air Force Base, so we have some common ground.
Good deal. Yeah, I grew up in the Chicago area. Ended up going to the Air Force Academy for school, and along the way found out that if I was medically qualified to fly, I needed to be a pilot. So I ended up going on a pilot training down in Lubbock, Texas, and was an Air Force instructor pilot after pilot training for 5 years, and then finished my Air Force career with 3 years flying the C-5A Galaxy out of Dover, Delaware. For those that aren't familiar with the C-5, it's the second largest airplane in the world. The thing is huge. And so anyway, got an opportunity to travel all over the world for 3 years doing that. But along the way, I kind of got discouraged with the military. I found out that I really didn't like being told what to do. I didn't like that much structure in my life. And I also felt that I could make a lot more money and provide even better for my family on the outside. So once my commitment was up, I ended up going through a bunch of interviews with the corporate world, thinking that that was my answer. Worked in the medical industry, selling hospital blood diagnostic devices for about 1.5 years, and then transitioned into the advertising world, where I ended up spending a decade. Along the way, I saw that the rules were continually changing, especially working for publicly traded companies, and they never seemed to be changing in my favor. And so I wanted to do something on the side to provide some more stability financially for the family. I had a situation my second full year in the advertising world, where I'd had a banner year. My first year was at the right place at the right time, and of course was able to bring my military background to bear as well. And my boss decided to shoulder on my shoulders a bunch of the quota increase for the following year for the office. And my quota was increased not 5 or 10% like most people in the office, but 90+%. I went from being a hero to a zero overnight. That cost my family about $60,000 or $70,000 in commission and bonus that next year. And we went from just starting to get our feet under us after being out of the military to being in a deep hole. And I realized, looking at the corporate comp plan, that there was no way I was going to be able to work myself out of that anytime soon. So I started doing some things on the side, and I collected aluminum cans. I sold books on Amazon before selling on Amazon was cool. In fact, my garage looked like a public library at one point, with all the books on literally shelf after shelf after shelf in the garage there down in the Houston area where we lived at the time. But I had also read Robert Kiyosaki's book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, during that period of time. And so everything I was doing on the side, though it was important to keep a roof over our head and food on the table, I was thinking longer term in the fact that I really wanted to make this whole passive income that he talked about in his book, and to make money while I was sleeping. And just so happened that a good buddy of mine one Sunday between church and Sunday school mentioned he and his daughters had a couple of gumball machines that they had placed in local area businesses, and it was something they could do together. And you know, they were learning about business and making some money as well. And I was like, maybe that's my answer. I didn't have any money, really, about $100 that I could put towards something. I could afford to buy a used candy and gumball machine on eBay at the time, and some candy and gumballs. And so that's what I did. Picked up a couple of ebooks on Amazon to kind of teach myself the business or the basics of it. And then went out and started just knocking on doors, trying to figure this whole vending thing out. And in the next 1.5 years, part-time, nights and weekends outside of my corporate career, I put together a business of about 125 locations around Houston. I was by then making 3 or 4 times what I was making full-time, just part-time with my little vending business. I got into toys and temporary tattoos and stickers and that type of thing along the way as well. But then 2007 and 2008 hit, the market crashed, less people were frequenting the businesses where I had equipment. And I was frustrated because the revenue was way down. And that was when I had some young kids come knocking on my door selling stuff for the local school fundraiser. And I put two and two together and thought, man, wouldn't it be cool if I could put vending machines in schools? We could custom design stickers for those schools with their mascot and their colors. And it'd be a passive income for me and my family and a passive fundraising stream for the school, and maybe get some kids off the street as well. And that's where the whole idea of School Spirit Vending came about. And I had a buddy of mine who was an elementary PE teacher at a school called West Columbia Elementary down about an hour and a half southwest of the Houston area where I lived at the time, and set up that machine, and the thing just did gangbusters, far, far, far beyond what I would have ever anticipated. And from there, it was just a matter of figuring out how to get the word out to other schools. And over time, we've gone from that one school testing our idea to here we are a little over 10 years later. And we are a franchise of about 112 franchisees in about 42 states. We're approaching 3,000 schools. And this crazy idea that I had has become a nationwide entity that is serving schools all over the country and helping families around the country make money in a similar way that I learned how to do years ago.
Matt, first of all, congratulations. I mean, that's such an incredible story to hear, from the highs and the lows. I mean, I think anyone in the entrepreneurial space or just business space can take away the value, the lesson of that hard work paying off. But I want to go back to something you were talking about in the very beginning, and definitely a fair amount of my audience, they're either in the military, thinking about going in, or about to transition out. And something you said, I'm sure a lot of us can relate to, and that is, we get told what to do a lot. From the second you wake up at dark 30 to lights out, you have someone else telling you what to do, where to be, how to look, all the above. What did you take away from the military? Those things you said didn't resonate with you. You wanted to change. That's why, a big reason why you got out. What were some of the key principles and morals and lessons and diligence maybe that you took away from the military that you could directly correlate into creating your own life, creating your own business?
The first that everybody, I'm sure, brings up is just the discipline that was instilled in us, whether we wanted it to be instilled in us or not.
No choice.
Yeah. Well, another thing too, that quite honestly was probably more important for me, and I think it's the thing that is the most unrelatable to a lot of people today that I come across, is, excuses don't matter, and nobody wanted to hear them. Any time that you wanted to bring up an excuse in basic training or at the Air Force Academy when I was there, et cetera, we were essentially told to reply, "No excuse, sir," and to move on. And so that thought process has been part of my life ever since. And it didn't matter what my reasons were or quote unquote excuses. The reality is, if something didn't get done, the buck stopped with me, and the only one that could change that is me. Now, that's been a big, big learning curve for me in relating to and working with other people outside of the military. It's been a struggle at times, even with raising three kids, because being a drill sergeant around home, which has never been my personality, is not a good way to win friends and influence people.
Oh yeah, I bet. I'm sure a lot of people have tried that, but sometimes people don't always respond well to barking orders.
Well, yeah, and not that that's really me, but the reality is, I just realized that not everybody has been brought up to think that way, and in many people's lives, excuses are viable reasons for why something doesn't get done or a performance isn't where it should be or whatever. And learning how to educate people on how empowering it is to not let excuses get in the way, but also having patience and learning that, okay, Matt, there's a small group of folks that you work with that are former military. And so because of that, just because you were brought up that way does not mean everybody else is or has been.
What was the biggest shift from you? Just not even talking specifically about the business stuff, but not to dive too deep down this hole, but the biggest shift from military to civilian world, because that's a whole mindset shift in and of itself, regardless if you've lined up a corporate job or starting your own business, right?
Well, I think the biggest thing is that for the first time ever, I had control. You know, in the military, as you know, you can be the absolute top performer or the biggest slug. And for a good period of time in the early years of your career, you're both getting paid the exact same thing.
Oh yeah.
You know, you got the same pay grade, you got the same rank, et cetera. Now, after you've been in 10, 15 years, obviously the top performers end up rising to the top. But early on, it was frustrating because here I was, you know, everybody that I knew was like, man, Matt, you're going to be the next general someday. But the pay didn't show it. You know, the rank, none of that did. And I finally realized that outside, I could control the growth. I could control my destiny. I didn't have to wait on anybody to tell me that I was worth that next pay grade or that next raise. It was completely and totally up to me. And that was empowering for me. I know there's some people that don't respond well to that. You know, God has made us all different for a reason. Mm-hmm. But for me, the ability to get out in the world, in the arena of ideas and business, and to sink or swim, and to make as much or as little as my wits and my work ethic and my persistence would allow, has been super, super appealing. And I've thrived, even though for years there, I was completely unaware of this world that I'm in today, right? Because I was just saluting smartly and doing what I was told.
So true, so true. And it's funny you mentioned that, because that's one of the biggest things I've been sharing with others as of late in my latest venture. You know, I left my corporate job almost 2 months ago now, and people ask me, you know, what's it like? What are you doing? You know, what are your thoughts and emotions going through being your own boss and creating your own day? And it's hands down one of the most exciting and fulfilling things to look back at the end of your day that my success or lack of success was 100% only because of me, because of the work that I put in or the work that I didn't put in. It's the most fulfilling thing that you can, you know, slouch, or you can bust your ass, and that is going to have a direct correlation to your success, you know, financial growth, network, whatever. It's so true in the entrepreneur space, man.
It's, you know, it's a lot of responsibility though too. And of course that safety net, that security that Uncle Sam, quote unquote, provides, is not there. And so it takes a certain personality, I think. And that's quite honestly one of the reasons why it took me a while to make the transition from corporate to being a full-time entrepreneur. You know, when I started School Spirit Vending, it was a 3.5 year process, and I was making several multiples of what I was making full-time here before I walked away, because I didn't ever want to go back. I didn't want to have to ask somebody for a job again. Mm-hmm. And so because of that, I stuck with it longer than probably many would, because I had a responsibility of, you know, a family of 5 at that stage of the game. I didn't start SSV till I was 40. You know, I turned 51 next month. So it's, you know, quote unquote, later in life for me. Already had a family that was growing, and the responsibility I had was much larger than many people getting straight out of the military would have. Man, if you don't have all that responsibility, then you've got the incentive to get after it even quicker and to figure it out, and to maybe take a few risks here and there that I couldn't do because I had so much other responsibility. Mm-hmm. But yeah, the sky's the limit. But then also you don't have that regular paycheck every month or every 2 weeks that can be very, very appealing. You hit your first couple of months where you're not showing a whole heck of a lot of revenue for this idea that you come up with in this business that you've started.
Hey everybody, real quick break from the interview with Matt to talk about Four Sigmatic. Now, like you heard me say in the intro, Four Sigmatic is one of my favorite new daily rituals that just really serves as the bookends to my day, to my night. I start my day with them, I end my day with them. The Four Sigmatic mushroom coffee mix with lion's mane and chaga. These things are the most amazing supplements I could ever think to put in my coffee. These are going to just bring you mental clarity. They just really help you get dialed into your day. And plus with the coffee, 100% Arabica coffee in the mix, you're getting authentic coffee. You're getting that true coffee taste. And kind of being a coffee snob myself, growing up in the family business, I know what real coffee tastes like and I know what it doesn't. And this stuff is real coffee, people. So you're going to get a little bit of that caffeine boost. You're going to get some of the natural stimulation from the coffee, the caffeine, but you're not going to get that really high and that really low. There is a little bit less caffeine than a normal cup of joe. So you're still going to get that clarity. You're going to get that stimulation, but you're not going to get that crash afterwards. Also, their coffee is specially formulated to just be a little bit easier on the stomach. So if you're someone like me that maybe suffers from some acid reflux, a little GERD action, this is going to really be less of a problem for you, okay? And then let's talk about the reishi mushroom mix. This has been one of my favorite new additions to my evening ritual of just separating from the day, just leaving all my worries and stresses behind me and transitioning into a little bit of a more relaxed state, okay? So reishi is going to be a really naturally calming way to just loosen up and ease into your evening, ease into that bedtime ritual that you have. This stuff just really helps me calm down. I get so chill. I just absolutely love it. It tastes amazing. Sometimes I'll drink it straight up or add a little bit of honey or agave to it. But reishi in the evening, mushroom in the morning, you can't go wrong. Now, Four Sigmatic is one of our proud new sponsors on the podcast, so they're going to hook it up. They're going to provide these incredible products to you at a discounted rate. So all you need to do is head on over to foursigmatic.com/everforward or just use everforward at checkout. You're going to save yourself 15%, okay? And that is FOURSIGMATIC, Four Sigmatic. Go put some mushrooms in your cup. I promise you'll not be disappointed. Now let's get back to the interview with Matt, all about that side hustle. So true. Yeah, those guaranteed paydays. It's funny. Every once in a while, I'll still kind of catch myself checking my bank account on like a Friday or the 1st or the 15th or whenever payday was. But you're like, oh yeah, that doesn't happen anymore, Chase. I think one thing that is so unique about your story, Matt, is that in this day and age, when people hear the word entrepreneur, and when, maybe this is just the bubble that I live in, but there's this assumption that you have to do everything online, that you have to have this incredible, huge, large social media following. You have to have this well-established platform to gain a following, to get recognition, and then introduce a product or a service kind of afterwards. But with your stuff, Matt, it's so tried and true. It's stood the test of time. I mean, no matter where we go, there's always going to be a vending machine. There's always going to be a standalone thing that people are going to buy from. And I think that's a really good segue into, what is it about these kind of standalone products that is so appealing to you? And how could someone maybe get into the same field because, they don't want to be on YouTube or they don't want to devote their life to being on their phone and social media all day? What is it about these tangible products that is so rewarding and successful?
Well, here's what it was for me, Chase, real simple. I had been listening to guys like Pat Flynn 8-9 years ago, initially reading his blog. And then when he started the Smart Passive Income podcast, et cetera. And he said, and just about everybody I've heard online over the last number of years has said, this whole thing online can be very, very lucrative, but it takes time. I didn't have time. I needed to give some money, to invest some money and a little bit of time, and to see a return, and a very quick return, not 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. The power of vending was I spent $39 on that first used candy and gumball machine like I said, I had about $100 all in between that, the ebooks, and the candy and gumballs that I bought at Sam's Club. 2 weeks later, after I found my first location, it was a karate studio in Kingwood, Texas, outside of Houston. I went back. The normal service cycle for a machine like that is 6-8 weeks. After 2 weeks, I was like, man, I got to see if this thing's really working, because I've never used these machines before. My kids never used them before. So I just wanted to know, is this thing real? Well, dude, I went in there on a Thursday night. The place was packed. There were kids everywhere for their karate and martial arts classes. I put that key in that machine and turned it, and quarters spilled out all over the floor.
Nice.
And I was like, holy crap, people do use these machines, and this is real. And that's when the light bulb really went on for me, because the reality was I needed money yesterday, not in the distant future. Mm-hmm. Now, because we've been successful in vending, I have now been able to start to build an online presence to supplement and to continue to diversify even outside of the franchise and the schools that I work in and out of, et cetera. And I'm a podcaster. I've got 3 shows now that I do externally for the world. 2 shows I do privately for our franchise team every week. And I'm slowly, with patience, with no expectation, building an online presence as well. But the entire foundation of it all is boring, non-flashy, not glamorous vending, 50 cents at a time.
Yeah, these are essentials. These are things that, I mean, I still walk out of my door and into the nearest convenience store, or, even the movie theater, and they're there. And what that is, that is someone making money off of me. And, it might even be you, Matt. Who knows?
Well, people don't realize how much money actually can be made with these machines. Most people don't see real money in a quarter. But just to give you an idea, in the last decade since we started SSV, we've sold over 40 million stickers.
No way.
We've raised over $5 million for schools around the country, 50 cents at a time. And, here I am talking to you. I'm actually in Norman, Oklahoma, outside of Oklahoma City, because I've got a bunch of schools I'm working with tomorrow. And as I'm talking to you, there are quarters being put in my 106 machines that I have out there today, all over Texas and Oklahoma. And there are quarters being put in close to 3,000 machines across the country right now as you and I speak. And I'm hanging out in a Barnes & Noble parking lot talking to you right now.
So rewarding, that passive income. I got to tell you, one of the coolest things, one of the coolest first things that I picked up on was, my big entrepreneur space is service. This podcast and the coaching. I'm not creating a product there, but I do have a few other items that we promote through Everforward and the accessories and stuff. And it's such a cool feeling to be out to dinner or just chilling on the couch, and I get a little notification on my phone. It's like, cha-ching, you just made $8. You just made $20. Like doing nothing. It's such a cool feeling.
Yeah.
And Matt, one of the things you're talking about, and one of these really great interview topics that we went over ahead of time, was just how you have designed your business system, design your business, your product that will support your life and not the other way around. Instead of trying to cram your business, instead of trying to cram your life into your business system, you really took a step back and just prioritized yourself and your family first, and then designed what needed to come after that. So outside of the gumball machine business, outside of the product, whatever, what would you say to a young budding entrepreneur who maybe thinks they have to develop their business one certain way and it isn't matching up with their lifestyle? Maybe it's introducing a lot of unneeded stress, or it's just not working. How do we, as a young entrepreneur, take our lifestyle and create a business from that?
First off, it's deciding, okay, what it is you really want in your life, and not settling for anything but that. There's never been more freedom today, or never been more freedom for entrepreneurs with all the tech tools and everything that's available today to design that life that you truly want to live. Too many people are out there being told what to do every day. They're doing something that they absolutely abhor doing, but they feel like they have to do it to make a dollar bill. And many feel they're stuck there for the rest of their life. And I just refused to do that. And so I got busy. I figured the 5-year plan was a lot better than the 40-year plan. And, I don't have all the answers, and there's ups and downs, and there's struggles and challenges in what I do today, just like in anything else anybody does. But to get up in the morning, to not have to ask anybody except for my wife what I'm going to need to do today, to not to have to answer to anybody, and once again to live in the greatest country in the world with the most opportunity in the world, and to sink or swim based on one's own ideas and work ethic, et cetera, is huge. I've looked in many cases at the direction everybody else is going and intentionally walked the other way.
Smart man.
We homeschool our kids. That's kind of ironic. We've educated them. I've got 2 in college, one more a year and a half away from being in college herself. And we've raised them up that way since day one. Not everybody does that, but we chose to educate them in the way that we felt they should be educated, with the skill sets, with the ability to encourage their gifted talents and abilities, and to create an environment where they can thrive doing what we believe that they've been placed on this earth to do. The same thing with business. I decided, okay, I want to be free. I wanted to control my time. I want to control the money aspect. And like, as an example, I just got back from China last week. I was gone for 10 days, took my youngest daughter with me. I'm on the board of directors of an organization called Kids Across Cultures. And right now we're doing a lot of water projects over there in China, providing clean water for people in that country who have never had clean water before, and who have lived with all kinds of, drinking all kinds of yuck that's impacted their digestive system and their intestinal system, et cetera, all their lives. And by just providing a simple water filter for these families and the kids in these schools, we can make a major impact on the quality of their life and allow them to better live their life. Well, I couldn't have done that before because I was gone for 10 days. And I either couldn't have afforded to go, or I couldn't have afforded to take 10 days off to go, let alone taking one of my kids with me. Well, this is the 3rd trip I've taken. I've taken each of them over there now. They've each had an opportunity to share that experience with me, to have their world and their mind opened up a bit, and to serve others who we can never expect anything back from in return. I couldn't do that before, but because I went at this with purpose, we have designed as best as we can the life that we wanted to live, instead of letting it be designed or dictated to us.
And I think that's one of the most rewarding things. One piece of advice that I would give someone, kind of the moral behind that story, Matt, was really getting really, really, really clear with what is your long-term goal here. Yeah, you may have a really cool idea for a product or a service or whatever you're going to do as your side hustle or in the entrepreneurial space, but take a pause, reflect on, okay, what could I really do with this? Is this really my end result, or what is it that I truly want to do? What greater good do I want to serve? And a lot of times, in order to achieve the goal beyond the goal, we have to develop that first one. And for so many other entrepreneurs, like my friend Amanda Bucci, she just got back from a service trip down to Guatemala, part of Lewis Howes's organization, Pencils of Promise. And this whole organization would not have the privilege, the honor to go down and build these schools for these underprivileged children and communities if they did not first meet their other goal of success in their product or their service. And so it's not just having financial freedoms, not just waking up every day and being able to just design your own day or not have to listen to anybody tell you what to do, but you then get to do what you want to do after that. I think that's the most rewarding thing.
No doubt. No doubt.
Matt, what could you tell us about, kind of circling back to your specific space here and the side hustle and creating your own business in small business startup and kind of turning it into a franchise? Because maybe, like I said, some of us, we don't want to develop something online or social media. We just want to go a little bit more of the quote unquote old school method of owning your own business. And that's through franchising. That's through just brick and mortar small business startup. So what's maybe been your biggest takeaway from that aspect?
I would say the biggest thing for folks is it's a lot of work. It's a lot of investment. The most important thing, though, is you have to have a business that is proven profitable. I hear of too many people out there have this idea, and the next thing they're thinking about is wanting to turn it into a franchise. Well, hold on a second. You need to prove it's profitable and get out and get really, really focused and motivated to make a wildly profitable location or 2 or 3 with your idea, with your concept, validate it, and then you can get the legal team that you need and learn enough to turn it into a franchise that others may have a desire to buy and help you grow that way. Many people, though, have an idea, and the next thing you know, they want to sell their idea. Well, hold on. Nobody's going to want to buy it, nor would I want to sell it to somebody if it wasn't something that was worth their money and would have the ability to provide for them. So we focused long and hard on proving the concept, validating the concept. We had a distributorship model to begin with and had about 40 different distributor families that we worked with to start with, and had a 7.5-year track record before we became a franchise. And the only reason why we became a franchise, believe it or not, is because I was talking to my attorney about some expansion in some other parts of the country. And he's like, you know what, Matt, given the business environment, especially in the Northeast and out West and California, et cetera, you really are going to need to be a franchise to do what you're doing legally there. Just because there's a lot more bureaucracy and there's a lot more stringent and strict laws about business opportunities and that type of thing. So that's why we ended up taking the step. And because of that, we were able to grow all over the U.S. instead of just in the South where we originally were. We've got franchisees in Alaska. We've got them in Hawaii today. We've got them all over California. We're growing all over the New England in the Northeast and Midwest, and being a franchise has enabled us to do that because there are about 13 states that are very, very restrictive when it comes to business, and the franchise just made the most sense for us to grow in those areas.
Do your homework, people. Do your homework. If you've got an amazing idea for a product or service, and you just want to take action, I commend that. But listen to Matt's wisdom here, and recognize which state you're in. What are the laws for this? It's as simple as just Googling certain things as far as, hey, what can I do as a sole proprietor? Do I need to develop an LLC? And that's definitely some topics for a whole other podcast or even a series, probably. But it's one thing to have an idea, but just make sure you're acting smartly, I guess, is my biggest piece for that.
Yeah, I mean, there aren't a whole lot of things that you can do risk-wise that you can't recover from, but you definitely do need to be aware. And ultimately, I'm an entrepreneur, born and bred, true blood. I'm the guy that has the idea and is going to go out and figure out how to make it happen. I had no desire to be a legal authority. I have no desire to be a tax authority or an expert in those areas. So I've been willing to invest in experts, accountants, and lawyers who are experts at that they get paid very, very well for their expertise, but them being involved allow me to do what is in my wheelhouse that I do best to the best of my ability so that they can focus on the stuff that they're good at. I hear too many people that are like, well, I think I'm just going to try to figure this out on my own. Yeah, you can maybe get by with that for a little while, but eventually that's going to nip you in the bud because there's just too much to know and too many little variables that you and I would never even think of or know to look for without having experts like that on the team.
You are preaching to the choir here, Matt. This is definitely one of, again, like I said, I'm an entrepreneur infant over here. And, I think anyone who tries to do their side hustle, you try to be all roles. You try to be your marketing department, your legal department, your HR, sales. And to a certain extent, yeah, you definitely have to be because it is just you and you've got to get the ball rolling. But definitely what you said is so true. Know what you're good at and do your best to stay true to that because the more you water that down by trying to be the expert in all these other fields, you're going to spread yourself thin. You're going to stress yourself out. You're going to most likely not be as successful as you can be. But honestly, the biggest thing is you're going to be less of what you're really good at. And that is doing no one a disservice but yourself. And you're definitely just going to, take one step forward, two steps back for sure. Matt, one other kind of quick question here. I want to be respectful of your time, my friend, is you've been doing this for a long time, and I'm sure you've experienced some really high highs and some low lows, particularly in branching out and starting your own business, or even maybe while you're still in the military, just getting started with this secondary stream of income. What was one big lesson that stood out to you? What was one of the most bitter pills you had to swallow? And I don't like to use the word mistake because I think we either succeed or we learn in life. So what was one of your biggest learning curves in this entrepreneur space for you?
I guess the biggest thing I would say is my good friend Scott Beebe turned me on to a book here not long ago called Profit First. And it's essentially a model for how the author recommends handling your money business wise. And man, really, really, really important. Essentially, what he talks about is the fact that regardless of what your expenses are, regardless of what you got going on internally for your business, you have got to pay yourself first and put some money aside. Initially, I didn't do that. I was so all in. Every last penny of every last dollar was reinvested. And, you know, it's that works great when everything is moving forward on all cylinders. But when you have a period of time where maybe things aren't growing quite as quickly or whatever, that can nip you in the bud too. So make sure that you're developing a cash reserve, or Dave Ramsey talks about when in relation to personal finances, an emergency fund.
Mm-hmm.
Have some money put to the side to help you weather the storm, or the ups and downs. As you're plan for the low months. Don't plan based on the high months, because not every month, not every quarter is going to be like the last. And every business is cyclical in nature. Mine is no different. And so because of that, you got to be able to weather the storm and the ups and downs because it's not all roses.
So true. So true. I mean, planning for success, but planning for the low times, you have to be able to know, okay, what is it going to take for me to just get by? What are your bare bones essentials? And make sure you can cover that, and then reach for the stars after that for sure. Um, Matt, in closing, your military experience, your entrepreneur experience, your family experience is definitely all encompassing for a lot of people listening right now. I can certainly relate a lot to that. So keeping all of these different hats that you wear, these different versions of yourself that you show up to every day, depending on who's on the other side of the table with you. how does Matt Miller, how does all of these products and services you have to offer, how would you say this helps others live a life ever forward?
More than anything, Chase, it's my prayer that I provide people hope. The thing that they're going to find with me is there's no hype. It's pure reality. I think too many people out there are doing a disservice when they try to prop something up to be something that it's not, or to sell something that is going to do this or that, to folks. The reality is we were all developed to work and to work most of our lives. And there is struggle in anything that we do. And so the one thing that I've tried to do more than anything is just to allow my story to be an encouragement to others, for them to see that no matter where you come from, no matter what your background is, that you can make it work. Not to be hung up on what you went to school for, or where you went to school, or what your career was previously. None of that matters. What matters is where you're heading and what ultimately your goals are. I mean, come on. Isn't it a natural progression to go from Air Force pilot to ad executive to vending machine guy?
Oh, it's so the most natural.
There's too many people that wouldn't even consider the path that I've taken because of the training they got before, or the fact that they used to fly airplanes, or they went to such and such a university or whatever. Guys, forget all that, because nobody cares except for you. Do what is best for you. And the minute that you can stop worrying what other people think and just live your own life, it will be so freeing to you, and it will enable you to reach your fullest potential no matter what it is you're doing. I always said that I would flip burgers for my dream. I didn't end up flipping burgers. I did deliver pizzas at Pizza Hut for a year and a half during the middle of this SSV ramp up, because I needed more money for seed capital. But I didn't take myself so seriously that I wouldn't do whatever I needed to do. If I had, I wouldn't be where I am today, because half the decisions I made, I wouldn't have made, because I would have been worried about what other people thought, versus worrying about what I needed to do to make it happen.
So true. And if you're listening right now to anyone else that I've had on that's stepped out from a side hustle to a main squeeze, I like to call it, I think we're really getting a sense of this common denominator. And you have to stay true to yourself. You have to be aware of the world and those around you, of course, but don't let that dictate your actions. Know your truth, and then set the intent and take action on that. Matt, thank you so much for your time today, my friend. Where can others connect with you the most? Where are you hang out online? Where can we get a sticker or a gumball from you?
Yeah, Chase, a couple things. First off, I wrote a short ebook called Live Your Dreams, the top 10 reasons why you need to own a vending business. And it's just insights from my 13 plus years in the industry that most professionals would never even think of, but should. They can go to ssvbusiness.com/everforward, and they can download that ebook for free, and at least
thank you so much.
Get a feel for my thoughts on vending. If they want to talk about the franchise, we can, or if they just want to learn more about the basics of vending, completely up to them. But I encourage them to check that out, because it's a whole new world that most don't ever even think about. Otherwise, I've recently launched a podcast here about 3 months ago called Sowing Seed: Faith, Family, Farming, and Financial Freedom. They can find that on iTunes or Spotify or iHeartRadio, or even on the Alexa. It's an Amazon Alexa brief on the Amazon Echo, or they can go to sowingseed.net and check that out. It's just me 3 times a week, short 5 to 7 minute conversations on topics ranging from my faith, my family, business, farming, which I love to do on the side as well.
That's some amazing content, and congratulations on your new podcast venture. This has hands down been one of my most favorite things in the world that I do, and it's my biggest baby. So I'm sure you'll love this platform as much as I do.
Heck yeah!
And we're gonna link all that in show notes, of course. But one other quick thing, if you're still listening to this episode, I want you to take note, because there's proof in what Matt is saying, and something that I can't believe I didn't remember this earlier. But my brother, as far as Everford as a brand, launched first with Everford Apparel about four years ago, maybe 5 at this point. I'm getting old. I can't think straight. But when we were growing up, my dad, when he got out of the Army, he was also an entrepreneur. Him and my stepmom opened a string of coffee houses and a high-end steakhouse. And in our very first coffee house back in our hometown of Roanoke, Virginia, my little brother, I think he was like 6, maybe 7 years old, if that, his first business was a gumball machine. And for anyone listening knows me and Everford and my brother, and look at the level of success that he has achieved in growing this incredible apparel brand, and just living his truth. It all started with a gumball machine, people. So if
awesome.
That means anything to you, there's proof in what Matt's talking about. There's proof in what Max and I are doing, and that it all starts somewhere. And for you, it could be a gumball machine.
No doubt.
Awesome, Matt. Thank you so much for your time. That's going to be a wrap for today's episode of Everforward Radio.
Thanks, Chase. God bless you, man.
Thank you all so much for joining me again this week. I truly hope that you have enjoyed this episode and its message. If you have found value in Everforward Radio, I would greatly appreciate you subscribing to the podcast, as well as taking just a few seconds and leaving it a 5-star rating and review on iTunes. This is the best way to make sure our message continues to reach others. Thanks again, and I hope that this content helps you live a life ever forward.